Well, hi there, and welcome to Home Wizards. I'm Cindy Dole.
Hey, I'm Eric Stromer.
Have you ever planted a Bareroot rose? It kind of looks like Charlie Brown's Christmas tree.
It looks like a little claw, doesn't it, at the bottom?
Yeah.
I have not planted Bareroot roses, but I've taken them out and seen what the Bareeroots look like. But that's how they send them.
They send them
in the mail.
So you can buy
the
these
rose
roses,
seller
the
folks.
rose nurseries online, etc. But one tip is, if you're thinking about, and this, by the way, is the time to be thinking about planting Bareroot roses, you want to first soak them in a bucket for like 24 hours because they have been shipping them. And wouldn't you feel a little thirsty?
Yeah,
if
it's
you'd been
probably parched. It's a
like
long
just
journey
just
with no
dehydrated.
water. Yeah.
So,
well, and air travel always gets you, especially if they're flying them in the bottom of a plane somehow.
well, they're at risk of getting, the flu, apparently.
There's a lot of viruses up there in the airplane.
Those poor Bareroot
I
roses.
know. Let's soak them up.
So we've got to fortify them, give them some vitamin injections.
That's it.
But let's talk about ways that you could start, because March is the month to bring roses into your garden, slowly but surely, and Bareroot time. This is it. And what we mean by Bareroot is, how would you describe it? It kind of looks like...
It basically looks like the root system of any plant, but then the top that you'd see on the from the ground up is like sticks.
Sticks.
Yeah, that's
and you
it.
think it's dead, but no,
Right.
it's just taking a nap.
Yeah,
it's just
dormant.
dormant.
Dormant for a minute.
Yeah.
And that's the way you get these extravagant roses that you don't normally see at the big box stores. That's the way you can buy those custom roses that everybody talks about that are champions from all over the world.
And every year they have like at least 50 new ones.
That's right.
They've hybrid,
the
cross-pollination.
Daisy T Molly Joe or something. They have these great names.
The Daisy T Molly Joe. That sounds like some kind of a TV show.
That's
something.
right.
But anyway, most retailers and nurseries that sell these, Bareroot roses, they're in this dormant state. It means that there's a little extra time required for the plant to establish the root system and to get strong. So basically, step one is you want to make sure that you're soaking it in a bucket like overnight, okay? But then step two is you want to make sure that you have your area, a nice deep area to plant the root.
Yes, and by the way, now we're getting into a couple of things that I just want to quickly mention. Digging, first of all, obviously you're not going to dig if it's still frozen out there. You're going to hold off until that ground thaws up. Digging on its own is hard enough, let alone having the soil really, really cool and difficult to move, especially if you've got a loamy soil that's filled with a ton of clay. A couple of great ways to start a hole and get it going is to water the area thoroughly the night before you're going to dig.
That's
saturate the area so that at least you can kind of break up some of that hard soil. You also may want to have a little bit of a pickaxe if you can, something that's not too heavy. You're going to be bending over at the waist. If you haven't been doing this all winter and you're just getting back into it now, make sure you bend your knees. Treat it just like you would picking up a large piece of furniture. You're going to warm up a little bit. You're going to get your body ready to go.
And maybe your favorite rose music.
A little rose music to kind of lull you into the whole idea and the process. But that's where, believe it or not, I have a friend who works in an ER room, and the springtime is when all these folks come in and go, "Oh, my back! What'd you do? I was trying to plant a Bareroot rose."
And they went to ER.
Yeah, because it's a shock to the body to start digging these deep holes. So be careful is my point. Okay, go ahead.
Another good tip, by the way, in terms of just preparing your area for this twig that is going to deliver beautiful, leaves and gorgeous roses and hopefully some fragrance too.
Right.
Is that Epsom salts that you might add to your bathtub?
Sure, I do.
Soak, right?
I live in those things.
Okay. Why do you love it?
It makes my body feel better from all the horrible aching and pain from digging Bareroot rose holes.
Okay, well, guess what? So do those Bareroot roses love that too. In fact, it's been proven that if you add about a cup of the Epsom salts per a gallon of water, you're going to add that to your soil, and it's going to fortify the soil. And just like you love that in your bathtub,
sure.
This Bareroot rose is going to say, "I'm in a spot."
You know what? I'm doggone it. I'm going to grow. That's what it says. That's amazing. I didn't know that. That's great.
So think of it this way. You want basically about, I'd say about a cup of Epsom salts. And you can buy them in these big, containers.
Any of the
gallon
big box
containers.
Pharmacy stores have.
Oh, yeah. And then you can save some for your bathtub and then share it with the
Well,
the
you
Bareroot
got that
rose.
right. Hello.
And at a ratio basically of a tablespoon for every inch of the height of the rose bush. So you're probably going to add a lot of Epsom salts, but it's going to be well worth it. It's going to give it a good edge. It's
great to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, when the rose arrives, again, you can go online and shop for these right now. and or you can go to some of the stores
Sure.
that have them everywhere. But the
More
thing
specialty
is,
stores have the unusual versions.
But the
varieties.
thing is, when you're shopping for the Bareroot rose, it's hard to see. I mean, they have like a little picture of what it looks like.
Right.
But it's always a good idea to, in advance of this, when you're at nurseries, already do some shopping when you're seeing the live bloom, and then make a note. I want to next time buy the fill in the blank.
It's a little bit like online dating. You know, the pictures they misrepresent the person that ultimately shows up at the dinner.
Well, hey, these roses, the Bareroot roses, they have Facebook and Twitter, and so they know what's going on. So once you do have all that research done, and you now have ordered or bought in person your Bareroot roses, and they're wrapped in this plastic, right, and the sticks and the dangling roots, and there's no soil, and they're kind of looking helpless. So, inspect the rose closely. Look for broken canes or even blackened roots, and you can clip those.
Yeah, get rid of them before you put them in the soil.
Exactly, because then you can put these sticks in water, again, for about 24 hours in your bucket, and it's going to rehydrate them and make them happy, and then you've added the Epsom salts to your planted area where the water's going in. Love it.
Great.
Yeah. So now remember, too, don't let your new Bareroot rose dry out before the planting. So as soon as you've done the soaking
once you've
overnight,
soaked it, you want to keep it moist.
Get it in there.
Yeah.
You can't just get lazy and go, I'll do it tomorrow.
I'll just lay it out here in the sun for a couple of days, and then I'll plant it.
Because you kind of defeated the whole purpose.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you plant them as soon as possible, or store them in some moist soil, and then just lay the roses partially on their side and heap the loose soil over the roots, and just keep it really, really
until you're ready. That's sort of the waiting station, if you will.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Now, if you need to, of course, if you need to determine your last frost date, you can check with your local garden center or ag extension office. And if you wait until too late in the spring, by the way, your new roses may dry out. So really, this is right around that good time. You know what I mean?
Love it.
When we come back, we have some more tips to make sure that you can get roses into your garden, because this is the season. Eric Stromer, Cindy Dole, we love to improve your home and improve your life.
Along with the sunshine, there's gotta be a little rain sometimes. When you take, you gotta give, so live, let or let go.
So you're pretty good at digging holes, Eric Stromer, but I know it's one of your least favorite things. You're not a digger.
No. I mean, I've done it for so many years. I've trenched.
A pain.
I basically was a grave digger, essentially. No. That's how much I've done.
But it's really
You get really good at it after a while, but it requires, I think a lot of times when people are doing recreational gardening, they're using the wrong footwear, because digging primarily, to get deep into the hole, you got to push down with all your weight on the shovel, right? So you definitely want to have a boot with a little bit more rigid sole.
Like not flip-flops or a tennis shoe.
No. You want something it's
hard.
Almost like think horseback riding in a saddle and the stirrups. You got to have something that you can put all your weight on and bounce up and down slightly on the shovel to get it into the dirt to start the hole, right?
I bet you most people don't wear a boot.
No, they probably don't. Like maybe wellies or something, but there's no rigidity to the sole, and then that's going to make it difficult to get that shovel deep in. And you got to have the right shovel.
You're giving me permission for more shoe shopping.
That's exactly why I'm here. You're welcome.
You're an enabler
You're
that way.
Welcome. Yeah.
No, I love the boots.
Yeah.
By the way, this is Home Wizards and Eric Stromer, and I'm Cindy Dole, and we're talking about planting bare roots, and it starts with a 12 to 18 inch deep to 2 feet wide hole. That's a big hole.
It's a big hole. So listen, here's what you do. Like I said before, you water the soil the night before you're going to dig. Then you get those shovels ready. The shovel has got to be the right one. It's got to be not a rounded spade shovel, but more of a straight edge shovel. It almost looks like a
like
slightly triangular shaped shovel that's almost flat.
Oh, a triangle.
Right? Not all the way down to the point, but just slightly, it slightly descends down.
And a flat edge.
And that gives you that sharp surface to get into the dirt.
And that's better than the kind with a point at the end.
Yeah. Those are more for moving a lot of dirt. These are for like cutting into the soil and getting down in there. So
what do you call this kind of shovel? Does it have a name, or just it's a rose digger shovel?
A spade, sometimes.
It's called spade.
Or sometimes a shovel.
Okay, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah. And it's usually a little bit shorter.
Uh-huh.
It's not the long handle that you use for traditional digging. and then you're able to almost hold it like a pogo stick, right? So you got 2 hands on the top handle, and then you've got sometimes 2 feet, and you're jumping up and down slightly to get that thing into the soil.
In your new boots.
In your new rigid boots that I've given you permission to buy, right? And then you kind of go in a circle. You make a first cut into the dirt in a completely circular fashion to get the circumference of where you're going to dig that hole, and that just breaks up the first layer. Once you get down about 3 or 4 inches, it gets a little bit softer. Then here's the key. You may want to get down on your knees and dig from your knee position, because then you're not bending over at the back so much, and it makes it a little easier then to get deeper in. You're closer to the depth of the hole. It doesn't feel so much like you're putting your body in that perilous position.
But with the same shovel or a shorter shovel?
You can use the same shovel,
one.
yeah. And then just keep working the dirt out and throw it off to the side, and you should be good. And if it's difficult after 3 inches, then put more water in the hole. And while you're putting the water in the hole, if that water drains out too quickly, you know you're going to have to add an amendment, because it's going to leach out too fast when you water your roses, and they're not going to have the appropriate amount of drainage. It's too fast. And then conversely, if it's just sitting in there like it's a bowl that's ceramic, you're going to have to also add amendments, because there's too much loam and clay.
It's flooding it. It's not going to drain.
So that's the moment before you plant so quickly that you want to determine how your soil is in terms of the way the drainage works for you.
Might add some perlite, for
there
instance,
you go.
To kind of make it more drainable.
That's right.
And don't forget, we're talking about Epsom salts, too, about a cup of it per gallon of water, and that's going to help. We put that into that hole. That's going to help, fortify the Bareroot rose.
Right, yeah.
Now, what about the backfill process? Because the idea is, after you've dug the hole, you need to set the plant in the hole and kind of spread those roots, those bare roots. Again, the Bareroot rose comes without any soil.
That's right.
It's like these little dingle-dangle things hanging there in this little plastic package.
Yep.
And so you kind of spread out the roots evenly.
Yeah, and you're going to then, re-administer.
You want like a little mound, don't you?
Yep, exactly. You're going to put your little mound down, and then you kind of gently spread the roots down into that mound. That soil should be soft and fluffy, because your amendments are going to be in there. It'll be easier to move around.
So inside this hole, you've got like this little miniature
then
globe.
You re-backfill like a gentle dome or mound, right? And then that's where you're going to place the bare roots down, right? And then you'll backfill it, and you can just use your hands to bring in the soil back over the base of the root, right, and then pack it down nice and kind of firmly, so that it stays in position, and then it's growing straight up. You don't want it to be cockeyed and off to the side. You want it to be centered and going straight up into the air.
Otherwise, it's going to look like the Tower of Pisa.
It's the tower. It's
I
the
love your
Rose
roses.
Tower of Pisa. Yeah, and everyone kind of turns their head to the right as they're looking at your beautiful garden, right? And then you're kind of filling the hole with water, obviously, and then you're kind of you want to again keep everything nice and moist and ready to go, and they should just start taking off from there. And
you fill that hole with a little bit more soil and more water.
Yep.
Keep going.
That's right.
And then overnight, wait and see how it's draining. Or not, and make some adjustments.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah, and you've obviously made your adjustments hopefully before you've planted, so that you know where you are and where your soil stands. You could have your pH tested at that point, and really determine exactly what you need to keep your pH to the right level.
Now, by the way, you can also use containers to plant these Bareroot roses, so don't be afraid of trying it that way. It's just remember that when you are planting containers with your roses, you're going to keep pruning to the minimum at the planting time, and then you wait a little bit until the leaves develop and the canes resume growing, and then you feed it, and that's going to give it a little more boost, for containers.
Yeah.
Now, as you're
and let me also
sure.
do one more point to you. Make sure you plant these 2 to 3 feet apart.
And
that's going to look strange, because you're literally putting sticks into the ground. So
it's not pretty
it'll
initially.
just look like you've leveled a field of beautiful things, and now you just have sticks coming out. But to that, 2 to 3 feet apart, they're not going to compete with each other. And then more importantly, don't plant them too close to other shrubs and bushes and plants that you have, because again, the roses are going to compete for the nutrients, and they really need them, as the other plants do. So give yourself enough distance for each individual rose bush to thrive on its own.
And by the way, that's a really good tip. And then in terms of like the container roses, if you've kept roses in a container for a while, and if they're just very moist, wait until the moisture kind of goes down a bit, so you can plant them more easily. Because if the roses are too moist, the roots won't grow as much, and you may actually lose some of the roses when you transfer them out of the container.
Yeah, and I mean, a great indication for the hardiness of roses, I live in basically a place that's as hot as Mars in the summer. And I mean, rarely does this do these bushes that I have, and they're glorious and beautiful, by the way, but rarely do they get thorough watering.
And who knew?
And they still go
They're doing
crazy.
great. Yeah.
It's better almost to kind of, that's hot, hot, intense heat works great for them. Then you hit them with water, and then you walk away. I mean, they're really not that hard to grow.
And some are more drought tolerant than others.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you might be thinking, I'd love to have a fragrant rose, and a lot of times the roses don't have any fragrance
Yeah,
at
I
all.
love the fragrant roses.
And so imagine you're going online or you're going to a nursery and you're selecting just this bare root and you're just seeing twigs. You're kind of guessing what it's going to look like when it's in your garden because you haven't really seen it, in the flesh, what the rose looks like in terms of the fluffiness of the petals. And you don't know if it's going to have a fragrance. You're kind of trusting the label. But you might want to make a note of some of these. There's a bunch of really new award-winning roses just out this year with great sweet scents. And one is called Honey Perfume.
See, I'm on it. I'm all over that.
And
to me, it's listen. I know that there are tons of varieties, and most of them have no fragrance. But the ones that do, why wouldn't you have a couple of those in your garden?
It's a bonus.
That's when the old proverbial saying, "Stop and smell the roses."
And
Stop and don't smell anything because they'd have no fragrance. Forget it. I'm not doing that.
And you have a cutting garden now
Hello.
because you can bring that into your dining room table and have fresh cut fragrance, right there. So make a note of the Honey Perfume Rose. It's a beautiful kind of an apricot yellow bloom. And it actually is really strong against like that powdery mildew. Have your roses ever gotten that white? It looks like somebody put powdered sugar on it.
No, I know what you mean. And no, again, because the watering is so sparse,
but in
and
moist
it's in the
areas,
morning only.
But we live in an area where it can get really shady.
Sure.
And so even though it's warm in the summer, it can get really shady and damp and cold in the winter and fall and so forth, even early spring. And so it's just sitting sometimes in that cool shade, and that's where it's more prone to like getting that. But the honey perfume is resistant to that. This is one that I have. It's called the Fragrant Plum. And it smells like lavender, and the color is a beautiful lavender purple color. So make a note of that one. It looks stunning in a vase. Fragrant Plum.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, the Bareroots, when you get them online, like for example, how much are one of those?
I think it's going to cost you around $15 to $25, probably.
Got it. And then it just shows up UPS. Here's your rose. Okay.
Another really good one is called Radiant Perfume. It's a grandiflora, and it's bright yellow, and it has that kind of a sunshiny look, and it smells like intense citrus.
Oh, I love those.
Radiant Perfume. So as you're thinking, I want to go online or I want to go to a store and get some Bareroot roses, make a note. You're going to get a yellow flower, but you're going to also have the scent of citrus. Radiant Perfume. Make a note of that one.
Yummy.
Yeah. Another really good one is called Heritage. And if you love the color purple, like I know you do.
I think I have a heritage rose.
You think you do?
It's the like almost lavender silvery color. Yeah.
It's kind of lavendery with a little bit of pink too. It's kind of a combination.
And it smells great.
And it smells like sweet lemons.
Yes.
Anyway, we'll put all this on the website, yourhomewizards.com. When we come back, we're going to help you be safe for just about anything with your home and car
You can't ever
emergency
be too safe.
kits. Eric Stromer, Cindy Dole, you're listening to Home Wizards.